Today I will show you the most interesting games that will be released in 2024 on PlayStation 5. Rise of the Ronin is a third-person open-world adventure role-playing action game developed by the creators of the Neo series. The game is set in feudal Japan in the year 1863. Players take on the role of a Ronin, a masterless samurai, a free individual with the freedom to make their own life choices. The Lost Crown is a reimagining of the Prince of Persia series, featuring the Persian soldier Sargon from the elite group of warriors known as the Immortals, who possesses the ability to manipulate time. The protagonist embarks on a journey to the cursed mountain of Kaf to rescue the kidnapped Prince Hassan. Metal Gear Solid Delta is a remake of MGS3 Snake Eater. The game's plot unfolds in 1964 during the Cold War era. Naked Snake, a professional special agent and soldier spy, is sent into the Soviet Union to the jungles of Central Asia. The main character hides, gathers information, eliminates enemies, and completes various tasks. Tekken 8 is the newest installment to the legendary fighting game series by Bandai Namco. The game's story unfolds after the fierce battle and defeat of Heihachi Mishima in Tekken 7. Players can expect a narrative centered around a new rivalry between father and son. Jin Kazama defies Kazuya Mishima and engages in a destructive showdown with him in the midst of a city. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is the second of 3 parts in the remake of Final Fantasy VII, designed to breathe new life into the iconic role-playing game series. Beloved characters such as Cloud, Barret, Tifa, Aerith, and Red 13 escape from the totalitarian city of Midgar, pursuing Sephiroth, an avenging swordsman with ties to Cloud. Pacific Drive is a survival racing game that places a primary emphasis on vehicle control and interaction. During journeys, the main character searches for supplies and parts to enhance the vehicle, engages in battles with enemies, and explores the terrain. The vehicle upgrade system allows players to change its components and parts, including the engine, tires, doors, and more, all of which affect the car's performance. Death Stranding 2 is the second installment of the realistic walking and logistics simulator with elements of action, survival, and stealth. In the original game, players traversed a post-apocalyptic world, encountered survivors, reconstructed the fragmented society, and established a unified network between cities. Dragon's Dogma 2 Inches is a single-player role-playing game where players have the freedom to make almost all choices. The story begins in an underground prison where the voice of the dragon echoes through the mist of lost memories. The resurrected character, caught between the realms of humans and beasts, must fulfill their forgotten destiny. Silent Hill 2 Remake is a remake of the iconic survival horror game with psychological elements and puzzles. The story follows the main character, James Sunderland, who receives a letter from his deceased wife, Mary, requesting a meeting in the town of Silent Hill, which held great significance for them in the past. Venturing into the town to uncover the truth, James encounters the creature Pyramid Head, and a group of people grappling with their traumatic pasts. Lost Soulicide is a dynamic third-person action slasher set in a fantasy world, inspired by Final Fantasy XV and Ninja Gaiden. The game tells the story of a former Templar Kaiser who witnessed a war between 2 kingdoms and lost his family during the battles. 10 years after the war's end, monsters pose a threat to humanity. Kaiser manages to form an alliance with one of the creatures named Arena, and together, they pursue common goals. HELLDIVERS 2 Inches is a third-person cooperative shooter where elite squads of Helldivers must prevail in battles across the galaxy and rid the world of extraterrestrial threats. Take on the role of elite soldiers whose mission is to spread peace, freedom, and manage democracy using the biggest, coolest, and most explosive tools in the galaxy. Stellar Blade is a third-person adventure action game set in a post-apocalyptic environment. In the game, you assume the role of the warrior woman, Ava, who battles monsters amidst the ruins of earthly cities. She wields a high-tech sword and is accompanied by a compact flying robot. Gothic Remake is a remake of the cult third-person role-playing game Gothic. The game is set in a dark world covered by a magical dome. The main character finds himself there as a prisoner. Now he must choose a side among the factions and save the inhabitants from the orcs. Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth is a third-person adventure action game and a sequel to Yakuza Like a Dragon. The main characters of the game will be Kazuma Kiryu and Ichiban Kasuga, who are likely to collaborate. The game inherits the gameplay of the previous installment, including turn-based group battles. Star Wars Outlaws is an open-world adventure action game set in the Star Wars universe, developed by Ubisoft. The game's events take place between the films The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. The main protagonist is the sought-after bounty hunter Kay Vess, who aspires to freedom and prosperity to start a new life. Foamstars is a cartoonish third-person online shooter where teams of players battle each other using foam guns. The gameplay bears resemblance to the Splatoon series. With foam guns, players can not only attack opponents but also coat the landscape in their team's color to unleash special abilities. Additionally, they can transform the environment into various structures such as walls, platforms, and more. Black Myth Wukong is an adventure game blending action and RPG genres, based on the novel Journey to the West. It allows players to embark on the journey of the Monkey King Wukong and immerse themselves in the atmosphere of magical ancient China. At the heart of the story is the Monkey King's son Wukong, endowed with a multitude of incredible abilities. Playing as him, gamers will explore picturesque locations and engage in battles with impressive magical creatures. The Wolf Among Us 2 is the second season of the episodic adventure game developed by Telltale Games, based on the Fables comic book series. The story takes place 6 months after the events of the first season, focusing on Bigby Wolf and Snow White. Hades 2 Inches is the sequel to the ancient Greek roguelike game Hades from 2018. The new story follows the immortal princess of the underworld Melinoe as she attempts to reach her father Hades, who is held captive by the Titan of Time, Kronos. She must explore a vast and deadly mythical world, defeating hordes of monsters with the full might of Olympus. The game features an enhanced progression system and introduces numerous new heroes. Alone in the Dark is a reboot of the cult psychological survival horror game. The action takes place in the 1920s in the Derceto Mansion, a shelter for the mentally ill. The game will feature a new storyline and 2 different playthrough options with different characters: Emily Hartwood, a young woman searching for her uncle, and private detective Edward Carnby, assisting her in the quest. PRAGMATA is an entirely new science fiction adventure action game set in a dystopian world not too far in the future on the moon. Players are tasked with unraveling a complex narrative. GreedFall 2: The Dying World is a third-person role-playing action game and a sequel to the original GreedFall, serving as a prequel to the series. The game's events unfold 3 years before those of the first installment, with the main character being a native of Tir Fradi, exiled to the old continent of Gakon, where wars and the plague of Malachor unfold. Little Nightmares 3 Inches is the continuation of the adventure horror game with puzzles. It tells the story of 2 new characters, Lo and Alone, attempting to escape from the nowhere, a dark world of shattered illusions and childhood fears. Silksong is the sequel to the challenging action platformer Hollow Knight. In the game, players embark on an adventure as the Hunter Hornet, facing new enemies and trials. Vampire: The Masquerade Bloodlines 2 is the highly anticipated sequel to the vampire-themed role-playing game set in the Vampire: The Masquerade universe. Players can expect a rapidly unfolding narrative, dynamic close-quarters combat, and enigmatic characters, each with their own hidden motives. In the game, you take on the role of a recently turned vampire, navigating alliances, engaging in political intrigue, and uncovering the reasons behind the conflict between vampire clans in Seattle. Assassin's Creed Codename Red is the next game in the popular adventure series, set in feudal Japan during the Edo period. The main protagonist is likely to be Akako Shiratori, a recent recruit to the Assassin Brotherhood. Marvel's Wolverine is a third-person adventure action game dedicated to the superhero Wolverine. The game's events will unfold in the Marvel's Spider-Man game universe. Most likely, the action of Marvel's Wolverine will take place in Madripoor, a fictional island in the Marvel universe inspired by Singapore. The island is described as a haven for smugglers, secret societies, and field operatives. The game will feature a darker atmosphere and more intense tones than previous games by Insomniac Games. Metro 4 Inches is a new chapter in the epic post-apocalyptic series. The game's events unfold in a dark and dangerous world after the apocalypse, where survivors struggle for resources and the battle for survival is relentless. The Division Heartland is a free-to-play survival action shooter. Unlike the first 2 games in the series, Heartland is set in rural America and the fictional town of Silver Creek. Players can explore and complete missions during the day, while battling dynamically moving contamination, enemy factions, and player squads at night.